Listen up, because I'm about to share the wildest breakup story that'll make you question whether men can ever handle a truly confident woman. My name's Emma, I'm 28, and I just watched a 6-year relationship get torched because my boyfriend couldn't deal with me owning my independence. I'm talking about me and Jake. We'd been together since our early 20s, meeting at a small liberal arts college in Willow Creek. We'd grown up together, basically, shared dreams, late-night talks, the works. For the last 3 years, we'd been living together in a cozy loft in downtown Asheville, splitting rent and bills like a real team. I thought we were bulletproof, you know? But apparently, Jake was just waiting for an excuse to bolt the moment things got real. It all started unraveling because I'd been spending more time with my friends lately. Nothing wild, just coffee dates, movie nights, or grabbing drinks at the Rusty Anchor with my girls. I'm 28. I want to live a little, not just sit at home, every night. Jake, though, was stuck in this draining tech job that had him coming home every evening looking like he'd run a marathon. He'd flop onto the couch, ready to dissect our relationship for hours, while I just wanted to enjoy my youth. But Jake started getting weird about my social life. Suddenly, he's interrogating me. Where are you going? Who's gonna be there? When will you be back? Like I'm some kid sneaking out past curfew. The worst was when he'd try to glance at my phone while I was texting my friends about plans. Total invasion of privacy. One night, I got back around 11 p.m. from a dinner with my besties, and there's Jake, sitting in the dark like he's been stewing for hours. He launches into this full-on investigation about my night, who I was with, what we talked about, why I didn't text him a play-by-play. I told him he was acting jealous and controlling, that I'm allowed to have a life outside of him. But he wouldn't let it go. He kept saying I'd been off lately, that I was pulling away. Off how? Because I wasn't glued to him 24/7? I called him out on his behavior, and that's when things exploded. He hits me with this loaded question. Are you even happy with me? Like he's already scripting our breakup in his head. I was happy, or I wouldn't have stuck around for 6 years. But the way he asked it, all dramatic and accusatory, made me defensive. I told him his clinginess was a turn-off, that he'd become this predictable, anxious version of himself who couldn't handle me having a life. Maybe I got a bit harsh, saying he'd lost a spark, that he never wanted to do anything fun anymore. The fight kept spiraling because Jake's obsessed with talking things out right then and there. Everything has to be resolved on his schedule. But sometimes, you just need space to think, not a 3-hour therapy session. When I told him I needed time to sort out my feelings, he freaked out, bombarding me with questions about what space meant, how long I'd need if we were done. I made it clear. I'd reach out when I was ready, and I needed him to stop hovering. I wasn't playing games. I just needed room to figure out if I could be with someone who didn't trust me to be independent. His panic over that simple request showed me exactly how immature he was. I gave Jake a crash course in respecting boundaries. For a full month, I didn't respond to his texts or calls. I wanted him to feel what it's like when he pushes too far. Honestly, it was the most liberating month of my life. The first week, my phone was blowing up, texts begging to talk, saying he missed me, that he wanted to fix things. It was almost sad how fast he went from controlling to desperate. I'd see his name flash on my screen and swipe the notifications away. Since we shared the loft, things got tense at home, but I kept it civil, polite but distant. He'd try to start conversations, and I'd give short answers and leave the room. I wasn't being mean. I was showing him that boundaries have consequences. That month was a revelation. I could go out without being questioned, text my friends without someone snooping, just be without justifying every move. My friends were amazing, taking me out to rooftop bars and listening to me vent about Jake's jealousy. We'd hit up dance clubs, and I'd actually have fun without worrying about a curfew. I even started chatting with this guy, Ethan, who I met at a bookstore in Asheville. He was chill, easy to talk to, no pressure. I wasn't cheating, never would, but it was nice to meet someone who respected my independence instead of feeling threatened by it. Meanwhile, Jake was pulling even longer hours at his tech job, which just proved he'd already checked out of our relationship. If he really cared, wouldn't he have fought harder to be present? Instead, he'd come home looking pathetic, giving me these sad eyes like I was supposed to feel guilty for standing my ground. By week 3, his text slowed down. Part of me was proud he was finally respecting my space, but another part was annoyed he gave up so easily. If he loved me, wouldn't he try harder? That month gave me clarity. I realized how much energy I'd been wasting managing Jake's insecurities, tiptoeing around to avoid setting him off. Without that weight, I felt like me again, strong, free, in control. By the end of the 30 days, I was ready to talk. I figured we could set new boundaries and move forward, assuming he'd learned his lesson. I sent him a text. "Hey, let's talk." I thought he'd be grateful for the chance to fix things. His response gutted me. He texted back that he'd moved on, that he was seeing someone new, Sarah, a coworker. Just like that, 6 years down the drain, because he couldn't handle 1 month of space. I called him immediately, stunned. His voice was different, calm but icy. He said our relationship ended the day I cut him off. Ended? I'd asked for space, not a breakup. He called it ghosting, which was so dramatic. Then he said Sarah had been there for him, that she didn't play games. Games? I was protecting my mental health. He admitted they'd gotten close over the last few weeks, while I was giving him the space he needed to grow. It felt like a knife in my back that I told him this was basically cheating. You don't start dating someone else when your girlfriend's just taking time to think. But he insisted there was no relationship left after I abandoned him. Such a convenient way to dodge responsibility. The call left me reeling. I wasn't letting some office fling destroy 6 years. I showed up at his tech firm during lunch, hoping a face-to-face would remind him what we had. He brushed me off, saying he was too busy. I wrote him a long letter, pouring out my feelings, and left it on his car with his favorite lemon bars. He never acknowledged it. I started checking his social media, which was torture. He was posting about weekend trips to Pine Lake, places we used to go, but now with her. It felt like he was erasing our memories. So, I fought back. I went out more, posting glamorous shots from Asheville's hottest spots, looking incredible. I started seeing Ethan more, and he was everything Jake wasn't: attentive, secure, interested in me. I'd post subtle hints that I was with someone new, letting Jake wonder what he'd lost, but I couldn't stop obsessing over Sarah. I had to know what made her so special. Her social media was infuriatingly perfect: photos with her cat, charity runs, yoga retreats. She was some HR assistant at Jake's company, all sunshine and no substance. If Jake wanted someone different from me, couldn't he have picked someone with a personality? It stung that he'd chosen someone so basic that I asked mutual friends about them. Most were shocked we'd split and couldn't believe Jake moved on so fast. A few said he seemed happier with Sarah, which was absurd. I'd spent years building him up. The more I heard, the angrier I got. While I was grieving 6 years, Jake was living his best life with a stranger. I texted him one last time, apologizing for needing space and saying I wanted to work things out. His reply was cold. He was happy with Sarah and asked me to respect their relationship. Respect? After 6 years, I deserved more than that. 7 months later, I was trying to move forward with Ethan when I saw them at a cafe in Asheville's Arts District. Jake and Sarah, tucked in a corner, laughing like they were in their own world. My heart sank. They looked so natural together, finishing each other's sentences. Jake seemed lighter than I'd ever seen him. When he got up for coffee, our eyes met briefly. He didn't look sad or angry, just blank, like I was nobody. That hurt worse than anything. That a year later, my life was a mess. Ethan and I broke up. He said I was too hung up on Jake, which wasn't fair. I was trying to move on. Dating after that was a nightmare. Guys ghosted me, probably intimidated by my confidence. Meanwhile, Jake and Sarah got engaged after just a year. Engaged. Everyone called it a whirlwind romance, but it was clearly a rebound. I sent Jake a message congratulating him but warning him not to rush. Apparently, that was inappropriate, and people started calling me obsessive. Work fell apart, too. I'd been clashing with colleagues at my marketing job who couldn't handle my directness. When I called out their fake niceness in a meeting, I was labeled disruptive and let go. Jobless. I had to move back to my parents' house in Oak Ridge at 29. Humiliating. My mom kept asking what I'd done to push Jake away, like it was my fault. Then came their wedding. I saw the photos online, Jake beaming, Sarah glowing, surrounded by our old friends. They looked genuinely happy, not like a rush mistake. It forced me to wonder if maybe this wasn't a rebound. But here's the thing. I'm not the villain here. I was a woman who asked for space to process her emotions, and instead of respecting that, Jake ran to someone else. I'm the one who got betrayed, yet I'm the one left picking up the pieces while he's off playing house with Sarah. Everyone expects me to just smile and move on, but it's not that easy when 6 years of your life get erased like they meant nothing. When your ex finds his perfect match, the second you step away to take care of yourself. The months after seeing Jake and Sarah's wedding photos were brutal. I was stuck in my parents' house in Oak Ridge, sleeping in a room plastered with high school posters, feeling like I'd regressed a decade. Job applications went nowhere. Potential employers would find the court records from Jake's ridiculous restraining order. Yeah, that happened. I'd left a few comments on their wedding venue's social media, warning other women about booking with people who ditch long-term partners without a second thought. I was trying to protect others from the kind of pain I went through, but Jake spun it as harassment. A restraining order over some online posts? Talk about overkill. It painted me as the crazy ex when all I did was speak my truth. The legal mess drained my savings. Hiring a lawyer while unemployed was a nightmare, and I couldn't even get a barista job because of the online footprint. My friends, well, the few who hadn't picked Jake's side, started pulling away, probably tired of my venting. I couldn't blame them, but it stung. Meanwhile, I kept hearing about Jake and Sarah through the grapevine. They bought a house in Pine Lake, adopted a dog, and were apparently the golden couple of Asheville. People talked about them like they were destined, which made me want to scream. Destined? He barely knew her. I tried to rebuild. I took freelance marketing gigs, but clients were picky and the pay was inconsistent. I joined a gym, started therapy, and told myself I was moving forward. But every time I scrolled social media, I'd see glimpses of their life. Sarah's cheesy posts about my forever, or Jake's new profile pic, grinning on some mountain hike. It was like they were rubbing it in my face. I'd lie awake at night, replaying our breakup, wondering if I'd been too harsh, too quick to pull away. But then I'd remember how suffocating Jake had become, how he couldn't handle me having a life. I deserved that space, didn't I? Therapy helped a little. My counselor, Dr. Larson, kept pushing me to focus on myself, not Jake. She said I was giving him too much power over my happiness, which sounded cliché, but hit hard. I started journaling, pouring out all the anger and hurt. I wrote about how Jake's jealousy had chipped away at my confidence, how his betrayal made me question my worth. But I also wrote about the old Emma, the one who laughed freely, who chased her dreams, who didn't need anyone's approval. I wanted her back. One day, I ran into an old college friend, Mia, at a cafe in Oak Ridge. She'd heard about the breakup and didn't pry, which I appreciated. Instead, she invited me to join her book club, a group of women who met weekly to discuss novels and sip wine. I hesitated. Socializing felt risky after losing so many friends, but I went. It was a game changer. These women were smart, funny, and didn't care about my past drama. They listened when I shared, not judging or taking sides. For the first time in months, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Through the book club, I met Noah, a graphic designer who sometimes dropped by to pick up his sister, one of the members. He was quiet but kind, with a dry sense of humor that caught me off guard. We started chatting at meetings, then grabbing coffee afterward. Noah was different from Ethan, who'd been great but too caught up in my baggage. Noah didn't push or pry. He just let me be. When I told him about Jake, he didn't flinch or judge. He said, "Sounds like he wasn't ready for someone as real as you." It was the first time anyone had framed it that way, and it stuck with me. Still, I wasn't fully over Jake. I'd see his name in a mutual friend's story or hear about their latest vacation, and it'd hit me like a punch. 2 years after our breakup, I got the worst news yet. Sarah was pregnant. I found out through a friend who didn't realize how much it had hurt me. Jake, a dad? The guy who used to panic over a late rent payment was building a whole family with someone else. I spiraled for a week, crying in my childhood bedroom, feeling like I'd lost some cosmic race. Why did he get the perfect life while I was still scraping by? Dr. Larson helped me unpack it. She asked me to list what I wanted for myself, not in reaction to Jake. It was harder than I expected. I realized I'd been defining my worth against his happiness, measuring my life by what he'd gained and I'd lost. So I made a list: a career I loved, friends who lifted me up, a partner who respected my independence, and a sense of peace. It wasn't about beating Jake. It was about building something for me. I threw myself into freelancing, landing a steady contract with a local startup. The work was challenging but fulfilling, and my boss valued my directness, a first. I started saving for my own place, determined to leave Oak Ridge behind. Noah and I kept seeing each other, taking it slow. He'd make me laugh with his sarcastic commentary on bad sci-fi movies, and I loved how he never made me feel like I had to shrink myself to fit his ego. We weren't rushing into anything, but it felt possible. One spring day, I was walking through Asheville's farmer's market when I saw Jake and Sarah pushing a stroller. My heart raced, but I didn't hide. They looked happy, tired in that new parent way, but content. Jake saw me and gave a small nod, not cold, not warm, just acknowledgement. Sarah smiled politely, unaware of who I was. I nodded back and kept walking. For the first time, I didn't feel crushed. I didn't feel angry. I just felt, okay, I'm 30 now, and I'm not going to lie and say I'm completely over it. Some days, I still wonder what I could have done differently, if Jake and I could have made it work. But I'm starting to see it wasn't about me failing. Jake couldn't handle a woman who needed space to grow, and that's on him. I'm not bitter, okay? Maybe a little, but I'm realistic. He chose a life that felt safe, someone who didn't challenge him. And I'm choosing something else, a life where I don't have to apologize for being me. I'm back in Asheville, renting a small apartment with a view of the river. My freelance gig turned into a full-time role, and I'm pitching ideas that might actually go somewhere. Noah's still around, and we're planning a weekend trip to the coast, just to see where it takes us. My book club friends are my rock, always there with wine and sarcasm when I need it. I'm not where I thought I'd be at 30, but I'm building something real, something mine. Jake and Sarah will probably keep living their picture-perfect life, and that's fine. I don't need to prove anything to them anymore. I'm not the villain in this story, and I'm not a victim either. I'm just Emma, a woman who asked for space and learned how to take up her own. And if that's too much for some people, that's their loss, not mine.